Have you ever felt this pressure to reach this eternal state of spiritual bliss, all while realizing that you're losing touch with your authentic self? What's up, everyone? My name is Morsi. I'm here as a spiritual teacher, life coach, and guide. And in today's video, we'll be diving into a powerful topic. If you're watching this video, there's a message in here that you're meant to hear. A message in here that will clarify any questions you have about authenticity, about being real, about permanent transcendence. This video, is meant for you. Before we get started, be sure you like down below. Help this channel out, help the video push along the algorithm. Subscribe to the channel and turn on those post notifications so you know the next time I post. Authenticity over perfection. Rethinking permanent transcendence. Permanent transcendence. I see it as this idea, even this expectation, that one is seeking to achieve a constant, unchanging state of spiritual elevation or enlightenment. All right, keywords here: constant and unchanging. It's this idea or expectation that one would perpetually exist above and beyond the limitations of the physical world, emotional ups and downs, the mental distractions. Once again, when you think permanent transcendence, right? Keywords: perpetual, unchanging, and constant. These ideas, it ultimately creates this imagined state. Ultimately creates this identity that must always be reached, that we must always find and seek an identity. And what this does is it gets in the way of us expressing ourselves authentically. I find authenticity when you find yourself being authentic, your words, your actions, your mental position or your beliefs, they're aligning with your values. They're aligning with your intentions. They're aligning with your thoughts. There's an alignment there. Therefore, you are expressing yourself with flow. You're not trying to hide behind a facade. It's authentic. You're not trying to avoid this idea. This is an idea that I bring up a lot, is this idea of needing to be a good person, right? It's quite popular within the awakening process, right? That I notice in the awakening process with others, and even not even in awakening, just now in our current times, this need to be seen as a good person. And often it takes away from our authenticity. It stops us from actually considering what we truly resonate with and how we would truly like to engage with the world. And so I find that as we dive into this topic too, and you are starting to recognize any memories come up in the past where you weren't authentic, perhaps you were hiding behind a facade, I want to let you know, don't worry about it. We're all here on a journey of understanding what it means to express ourselves authentically. And oftentimes it means that we're stepping into different states of consciousness, and maybe even in your past, right? You may had to feel like your true thoughts, your true emotions had to be hidden simply in order to survive or just be, right? And that ultimately it creates a habit. And so the message here is intended to point you to presence, point you to recognizing that memory in the past, it's not you. and that you can choose authenticity right now. You can choose your truest expression right now in this moment. Authenticity over perfection, rethinking permanent transcendence. Letting go of these absolutes of never and always, and learning to embrace the human experience. I find that that's powerful when it comes to authenticity over perfection. What comes to mind is embracing suffering. Embracing suffering doesn't mean romanticizing suffering, okay? Embracing suffering doesn't mean that you identify with your suffering and therefore you use it as a way to get your way with others. No, right? That's what, the mind might do, right? The conditioned mind might do. To embrace it means to accept it and say, this is a part of the human experience. Of course, suffering, it hurts, it's painful. It's a part of the human experience. It's part of the duality in the physical world. The expectation within the mind to never experience it again, it gets in the way of simply being here in the moment. When you choose to embrace suffering, you suffer a lot less. A lot less. I laugh while I'm saying this because I think about the moments where I find myself in a moment of suffering where there's a lot of emotions. I feel resistance. And in that moment, there's so much energy that, hey, there may not be space for joy in the moment, may not be space for gratitude. But what I find is that when I'm aware enough, there's enough space to recognize that the suffering isn't as bad as my mind makes it out to be. With that space, it is bits and bits of presence coming into the moment. And what then arises is in a full acceptance of the moment, a full acceptance of the suffering, of the human experience, of what comes out of that. I was reflecting today and thinking about how my challenges have built so much confidence within me, have refined my expression, have really helped me get back on my feet after rejection. All the things that are a part of the human experience. That, hey, the conditioned mind might want to sit down and never do it again, never try again. But with enough space and an embrace of the full human experience of knowing that I, within this life, will experience a multitude of emotions. I will experience suffering from small to large. And in that acceptance, we experience it a lot less. The moment just becomes the moment in and of itself. It's more objective or neutral. It's just presence. That is all. And so when we are accepting the human experience, the totality of it, the fullness of it, we find ourselves more authentic. Less trying to be perfect, because what is that besides an idea that we made up in the mind, right? What is an unchanging, constant state of spiritual elevation or enlightenment? If you may not truly experience it in the present moment, right? Ultimately, it's made up in the mind. I'm not here to say that it doesn't exist. That's not what this video is about, right? This video is about stepping away from the idea of it and truly living in the moment, stepping out of this idea, right? Because that is what takes us away from the fullness of presence. I share this powerful practice that I call peaceful pausing. A peaceful pause is a brief moment of calm, alert awareness. In that moment, you're no longer attached to any identity. You're no longer attached to form. You're no longer attached to a desire. You're here. Whether it's for a second, 5 seconds, 10 seconds, however you consider a moment to be, that peaceful pause is enough to transcend thought, enough to transcend emotion. It is enough. And the more you invite it in, the less you suffer. The more you invite it in, you recognize that you are presence. The more you invite it in, you're no longer chasing this identity of being spiritually enlightened, spiritually elevated. Right? That spiritual ego, it fades away. You're here. A peaceful pause is the beginning and the end of your searching for inner peace. Because in that moment, inner peace is so evident. There's no denying it. Spiritual transcendence or permanent transcendence, it's rooted in perfection once again. Rooted in the idea of reaching a perfect or flawless state. And so ultimately you end up neglecting your truest self. So choosing that peaceful pause, it helps you step out of that idea and be here truly, and you recognize, oh, this is life. This is life itself, and it's so freeing. You're not chained to expectation. You're not chained to the need to prove yourself. No longer, you are untethered from this endless pursuit of external validation. You're here. You're free in your own energy field. Allowing whatever presence has for you to flow through you, flow to you, recognizing you are presence. Another sign, too, of when this idea of permanent transcendence, or even like what it would do, I would say, okay? Even when giving too much awareness to this expectation or idea, what often happens is neglect of emotions, a suppression of emotions. I remember I was watching something and someone said, oh, that's so 3D. It was something that, had to do with awakening, spiritual awakening. And I was like, oh, never heard that phrase before. I mean, I do know about, 3D, 4D, 5D, but to say, oh, that's so 3D. Ultimately, that idea, it can lead someone to suppressing their true emotions, because you may have a certain emotion, whether it be fear or frustration, maybe it's jealousy, maybe it's envy, whatever emotion that arises within the human experience. You may feel shame for feeling that, and then it gets suppressed. And then the root of that needs to be seen, it's not seen. So you ultimately end up living behind a facade. There's no space for authentic expression. You find yourself expressing yourself authentically when you're honest, you're self-aware, you're transparent, and you're saying it and expressing yourself in a heart-centered way through presence. There's a groundedness to it, right? It's a flow, it's comforting there. And even if it's not comforting, that acceptance of it not being comfortable, that too leads to authenticity. Authenticity can arise in any moment you choose to agree with the moment. So you don't have to worry about whether or not something is so 3D or not, right? You're not looking for perfection. You're not looking to always have to express yourself in the characteristics of 5D, 4D, whatever it might be. You're here, you're real, you're honest. You don't need to be perfect. Because also within that too, it creates inner conflict. there becomes an inner war within yourself. There's an aspect of you that needs to express itself, and another aspect of you that's like, no, that's not the right way. That's wrong. That's bad. Inner war, inner conflict. No war. This is what the beauty of a peaceful pause. It allows you to bring in space so that you are not reactive, but you're responding. And even if you do react, when you're aware enough, you pause. In that pause, no guilt, no shame, space, presence. Perhaps a inhalation and an exhalation, one conscious breath. Perhaps you tap into the heart center. Perhaps you state a bit of gratitude for the moment. Whatever the moment calls for, presence is here. I want to remind you that emotions, they come and they go. Thoughts come and go. I'll even say it this way, right? Come and go, rise and fall. Thoughts rise and fall. Emotions rise and fall. People rise and fall. Events rise and fall. But you, your true self, remains the same. That space, that awareness, it's here. Before, after, above, beyond, below, within, without. You remain. I find that there's so much power when we talk about embracing that human experience of allowing all of the emotions to just flow. Like, oh, this is the human experience. It's almost just like this, what comes to mind is a cycle, or just even, it's cycling out of your body, transmuting. In that peaceful pause, you can recognize it and allow it to flow. And as it flows, you allow that message to flow to you, or perhaps it's just space that is there. The inner conflict fades. There's no more suppression of emotions. There's an embrace of the moment, an embrace of the suffering. No longer rooted in perfection. The choices you make are aligned with yourself. They truly represent you, and therefore you end up actually attracting people and events that actually align with you. When you find yourself needing to uphold this idea of perfection, you end up attracting those who are attracted towards that idea. But that idea is not truly you, right? Authenticity over perfection, rethinking permanent transcendence. Our authentic self, it aligns for me when I share authentic self and true self. I see them different and the same. For me, your authentic self, it aligns with the horizontal dimension, this physical world. It aligns with this transient nature of life. What is authentic to you today was probably not authentic to you 3 years ago. What is authentic to you today may not be authentic to you 3 years from now. Authenticity, it shifts as we shift, as we grow and change and we learn more, we expand more. Some stays the same, some of our values may stay the same, but there's an openness towards change, an openness towards the emotions that flow and the thoughts that flow. I find that your true self is that self that is with a capital S. It is beyond concept, beyond time. It is unchanging. Much of that energy is much of what I share here on this channel. Stepping into the present moment and releasing attachment from identity. Honoring that you are life, you are the flow, you are the present moment. bringing your fullest awareness to your truest essence. So there is no attachment to the idea of permanent transcendence, this need to achieve something that you already are. You already are spiritually elevated. You already are enlightened. It's a matter of recognizing that. And that can be recognized with a peaceful pause. I encourage you to download my Peaceful Pauses ebook. It's a free ebook introducing this topic, as well as powerful spiritual practices that give the practice of peaceful pausing a more holistic understanding. As I mentioned before, conscious breathing, heart-centeredness, gratitude, bringing awareness to the less stimulating moments. All of which allows you to step in and recognize your true self so that you can honor your authentic self. Or honoring your authentic self so you recognize your true self, whatever it might be. And if you enjoy that ebook, definitely register for my course. My course, it dives deeper into the ebook, takes you beyond into recognizing that any moment can be a meditation. We dive deeper into understanding thought patterns and emotions, learning how to embrace the wholeness of the human experience, truly allowing ourselves to express ourselves authentically, present here in the moment. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you like down below. If you made it this far, all right, comment, "I honor my authentic self." Comment that down below. I want to see. I'm just curious. My name is Morrissey. If you enjoyed this video, once again, like down below, and I'll see you next time. I'm sending you peace, love, wholeness.